Shalom, Shmi, my name is Oudi Singer. Today I'm going to talk to you about the remedies and medicines of a very familiar book, Sefer Tehillim, or the Book of Tehillim, written by David HaMelech, King David, which most of us see in the stores here and there, most of us have at home, but we don't know the depth and secrets that lies within every letter of Sefer Tehillim. In matter of fact, we sing it in the Ashrei, we have it in the Hallel of Rosh Chodesh, the whole Psukei de Zimra prior to the Amida is all verses from Tehillim, Psalms from Tehillim. But why? Why would the ancient ones that wrote the Siddur or constructed the Siddur pack the whole Siddur with Zmirot of David, with songs of David? What is the reason for that? Well, let me take you back to the 12th century to a Kabbalist called Giktila. Now, Rabbi Giktila, in his book Sha'arei Ora, The Gates of Light, it's an ancient book, I have a copy from the 1800s here, wrote very simply that the book of Tehillim came to cut stumbles, to provide entry to the gates of heaven, to the halls of Hashem. And since none you or me are tzaddikim gmurim, a whole tzaddikim righteous one, we are going to have stumble to get our prayer to rise above. So the Tehillim opens the doors and make it clear for our tefillot. Therefore, the whole Psukei de Zimra preceded the Amida, allow our tefillot to get to Hashem. Who wrote Tehillim? Well, the Baba Batra Talmud says that Tehillim was said by 10 elders, including Adam Rishon, including Moshe, Moses, including Avraham, but David was the one elected to actually put them to writing, the Talmud Yerushalmi says, and actually add his own. What's interesting enough about the book of Tehillim, which I want you guys to know, because many people do not know, is that the Degel Machane Ephraim, which was the son of the holy Baal Shem Tov, legendary Baal Shem Tov, in his commentary to the Torah, says that the book of Tehillim is divided into 5 books. Just like the Torah is 5 books, Tehillim is divided to 5 books and equal in power to the Torah. It's actually a Torah on its own self. His book was called Degel Machane Ephraim, the flag of Camp Ephraim, which you can find in stores, I'm sure of that. So he suggested that the Sefer Tehillim is almost as strong as the Torah in power. More so, something that we should know about, that Tehillim was used and composed and chanted by the Levites in front of the Holy Ark in the temple. That's how old it is. And Radak says it in his commentary to Samuel 2. In the Bavli, the Talmud Bavli, they said that the Levite recited that in the Holy Temple every morning. So that's how old it was used. The Talmud in Shavuot 15b suggests that the Psalm 91, or Tzadik Aleph, was recited for protection, especially now when we are in the times of great misfortune of the COVID, of a great pandemic. It's very important that we have a tool, we have a remedy to deal with all types of misfortunes. Let me take you forward and cite one of my favorite tzaddikim of all times, Rabbi Nachman from Breslov, the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov in Likutei Moharan. What he says when you read Tehillim, when you recite Tehillim, when you sing Tehillim, and you are witnessing the trials and tribulation of David HaMelech there, whether it's talking about being hunted or targeted or running in the desert or crying or whatever it is, find yourself in it, because the trials and tribulation of David is actually your tribulation as a person. So don't read it like you're reading a fiction book. Read it as you are in it, as you are played in the misfortune, and salvation will come to you and help will come to you. Another interesting tzaddik was attributed to the student of the Arizal, the Keret Kabbalist. The Arizal is the Valley of the King, or Emek HaMelech. Now, the Valley of the King was written a long time ago in the 15 or 1600. But what he says, very interesting, on page 15, he says that the book of Tehillim declines many stumbling blocks and damages, and he who reads that can remove those damages or stumbling block, aka COVID, aka illness, aka financial troubles, from himself, from his family, and from his old generation. So that's how powerful that is. Another interesting writing was by the Holy Shalah. Now, the Holy Shalah is buried in Tiberias. He was a big tzaddik. Well, he brings an interesting story from the 1351, to be exact, on Rosh Hashanah. There was an old man, and he was reading Tehillim from the time he was a child, and it was said that the little Jewish town in Germany, in Erfurt, Germany, was saved, and there was no troubles. One day the old man passed away, and after 30 days of his passing appears in the dream of the rabbi with a small little book covered with tachrichim, with his wrapping, and he told the rabbi, I was reading Tehillim. Now nobody reads Tehillim. You must flee the town before trouble comes. The man notified the townspeople. The townspeople did not want to leave. And the story ends by the rabbi listening to the old man's spirit, leaving the town and sparing his own family. So the fact that the old man read Tehillim all these years protected the town. More so, let's talk a little bit about medicines and Tehillim. A nice story is told by a rabbi. At the time he was served as a rabbi in Zichron Yaakov in Israel. And he was returning a debt to an old friend, unknowing that his friend fell into illness and got paralyzed in all of his body. He called his yeshiva boys, he called the Hasidim, and they were all reciting Tehillim all night in front of his friend. And in the morning, he asked his friend to lift his leg, to lift his arm, and the man that was paralyzed previously could do so. So here it is, another testimony of how Tehillim helps your health. I want to cite a big tzaddik called the Kotzker tzaddik, a student of Reb Bunim of Psishcha. He lived in the 1700 and the 1800, and he said something like that. If David, who wrote Tehillim, have said the Tehillim in a different order, there is 150 chapters, but if he would have said them in a different order, the ones who read Tehillim would be able to revive the dead. But David never received the permission from Hashem to do so, to lift the dead. Therefore, we got permission to lift the sick, but not to bring people back from the dead, but you can heal people. That's what the Kotzker Tzaddik says. Another recent story, which was quite compelling, I'll share it with you for inspiration, was Khalfo Gamish. He was an immigrant from Tunisia, living in Yerushalayim, and he read Tehillim every morning for many, many years. Suddenly his sight started to become blurry, and he skipped the lines. In his dream, he saw the spirit of David HaMelech with a little Tehillim book. And David asked him, why is he skipping? And he says he cannot see from his left eye. So he said, if you wake up, Khalfo, and you will read it without skipping, I would give you your eyesight back. When in the morning, Khalfo Gamish, the old man, woke up, he picked up this Tehillim next to him, and suddenly he could see from the eye that he wasn't seeing the previous 5 years. Here is another more contemporary story to the power of Tehillim. Interesting enough, the word Tehillim or Tehillah or a psalm, right? Praise, sound like tefillah, and it's written the same way. The only difference is the tefillah prayer has a fei, the letter fei, the second letter, and tehillah, which is Tehillim, Psalms, has a hey. So the Noam Elimelech, Zecher Tzadik Lebracha, was a student of the Maggid of Mezrich, student of the Holy Baal Shem Tov. And the Noam Elimelech said something like that. It is said the same. It's the only letter different is the second letter. The letter Hey is greater than the letter Fei of Tfilah because Hey by itself is the name of Hashem. So when you say Tehillim, when you recite Psalms, you actually is doing Tfilah, my friends. You actually praying. And the Holy Shalah, who lived in the 1600s, said something very simple. When you read Tehillim, it says Tfilah, and it's also study of Torah. So you get two for the price of one. So if you study Torah, you study Torah. If you do Tefillah, you do Tefillah. However, if you sing and study Tehillim, you do Tefillah and you study Torah. You got two for the price of one, my friends. What else I want to tell you about Tehillim? I want to tell you that in the times of the Baal Shem Tov, that's the 1600. He was born 1600 in the Carpathian area of the world, very dark area. And at time fell great misfortune on the city, on the town. And he did Aliyat Neshama. The Baal Shem Tov could lift up his soul while being alive and consult with Hashem and get an answer to how to solve the misfortune, the COVID of the times. When he went there, he heard singing for one of the halls, and the guardian told him that it's an old man lives nearby, very poor old man who was reading Tehillim. And he got the Olam Haba, the world to come. They asked him, when you come back to this world, look for that man, and with that man, salvation will come, and the COVID or whatever plague of the town will be resolved. The Baal Shem Tov looked for the old man and found them reciting Tehillim, Psalms, in his poor shack. And he told them, I went to heavens and I heard you singing, and you got the Olam Haba. The man looked at the Baal Shem Tov and says, I do not want the world to come. In matter of fact, I'm giving you the world to come so the people will be healed. And as he said that, the townspeople were healed and the plague left the town. So if there is a hope for us all, for medicine, if there is hope for us all to deal with misfortune, my friends, go and buy yourself a Tehillim and recite it. There is great fortunes in it. I want to tell you something. Tehillim said before Tfilah is a great, great thing. In matter of fact, the Pri Megadim, who lived in the 1700s, said something like that. It is customary to say Tehillim before Tfilah to cut down all stumbling blocks. So hear what he says. He says Tehillim is not to cheer us up only and to cheer other people up. Tehillim is a way to cut down stumbling blocks. Another student of the Jose from Lublin, the Sierra from Lublin, here is what he says. There is a verse in Tehillim says, Mi yemalel gvurot Israel. Who will say the mightiness of Hashem, the greatness of Hashem? But yemalel is also, the Talmud says, who will crumble the gevurot, the judgments that Hashem brings upon us to test us. So with the words, you can break down all the stumbling blocks. So by you reciting Tehillim, you are crumbling all the stumbling blocks that is in front of you, my friends. What else I can share? What else pearls of wisdom I can share with you tonight or to this day? Tehillim has 150 chapters. That said, 150 chapters in Gematria, in the study of Gematria, is a kaper. Kaper is atonement. If you take kaper, it's 150. When you read Tehillim, you do your own atonement. By reading it, by putting your kavanah in it, you do your atonement. This is the story of David. This is David's misfortune. David wrote it in the name of 10 elders. He brought us so we can find ourselves there, so we can recite it, so we can help us, our families, our children, especially now when we are facing such a great dangers of the pandemic, I would say let's read it, let's share it, let's not keep it a secret, my friends. Pass the knowledge with your friends, with your neighbors about Tehillim and the power of Tehillim. And I would thank you. I'm very grateful being with you. Thank you all for listening to me.